back, friends. In this video, I'm doing my very first reading Booktubers favorite books of 2023. I initially was not gonna do this video because I've only been on Booktube for a year. My track history with reading has been really bad in the past couple years. Most people pick the books that they're going to read by choosing a booktuber that has books that have most in common with them, or they pick the book that's being mentioned the most in the people that they subscribe to. For me, I actually don't subscribe to a lot of booktubers, so my thinking was I'm not going to have a lot of books in common with people because I've only really started reading this year or gotten back into reading this year, and I actually don't follow a lot of booktubers, so how am I going to make this work? So to provide you some reasons as to why I didn't initially want to do this video is I went back through the past 5 years of my reading, and in 2029 I only read 12 books, and then in 2020 I also only read 12 books, and then in 2021 is where the shame really starts, where I read 0 books, and then in 2022 I read 7 books, and then last year in 2023 I read 60 books. So I decided to do this video anyway because, you know, there might be a hidden gem there. Let's try, and if it's a fail, then you'll never see this video. So I decided to go through my YouTube and who are all the people that I subscribe to and use their best books of 2023 books to kind of compile this list. So the booktubers that I subscribe to are Elias, Gavin Reads It All, Gabby Reads, Books and Lala, With Cindy, Kari Can Read, Allison Pages, Peruse Project, The Book Leo, Katie Colson, Meg with Books, Sarah Without an H, and Riley Marie. So that's 13 people, and that's not a lot of people to kind of compile their list, but we're gonna make a solid attempt anyway. So the way that I'm doing this is I'm doing this a combination of what books are popping up on most of these people's list and what books do I have most in common with these YouTubers for their favorites of 2023. The books that was popping up on most people's list is Emily Wilde, showed up on 4 people's list. It showed up on Sarah Without an H, Riley Marie, With Cindy, and Books and Lala. I'm gonna go ahead and choose that book. And then the next book that showed up on the most people's list is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and The Last Tale of the Flower Bride showed up on 3 people's list. That would be Sarah Without an H, The Book Leo, and Kari Can Read. I'm gonna pick Emily Wilde and The Last Tale of the Flower Bride to read. So then I decided to choose a book off of a booktuber's list who had most of their books in common with me. And let me tell you, it's not gonna be a lot. So the bar was really low when I was going through this and chose the book. This came as to kind of no surprise to me of who had the most books in common with me. So the first one is Riley Marie. Riley had 3 books in common with me, and that would be Mindfuck, Bloom, and Butcher and Blackbeard. So I will be choosing a book off of her list, and the book that I decided to pick is The World Gives Way. Now, this is a sci-fi book, and I have had a hit with sci-fi this year, having read Project Hail Mary, and then having read the first book in the Murderbot series. I mean, Murderbot was just kind of fine, but I had a huge hit with Project Hail Mary, so I decided to pick another sci-fi book and see if sci-fi is really my genre. So the next person I had the most books in common with, which is kind of surprising to me, is Sarah Without an H. I had 2 books in common with her. That is Project Hail Mary and Mindfuck. This is a surprise to me because Sarah and I have recently discovered that we have opposite book taste, but I love you, girly, and I will be choosing a book off of your list. The book that I'm gonna pick off of her list is Silver Under Nightfall. The reason why I picked this book is because it is about some vampires set in this magical fantasy world, and the way that she described it is that if you've seen Castlevania, this book, Silver Under Nightfall, is Castlevania in book form. Problem being is that I've never seen Castlevania, so this could be either a huge mistake or this could be a win. But I am attracted to this book because it is a long book. It's over 500 pages, which books like that are kind of scaring me right now. And so I am making the conscious decision this year to read bigger books. So this is one of those books on her list that are kind of bigger. Also, I just want to note that I am kind of surprised that the 2 people on this list that I had the most in common with is Riley and Sarah, and I subscribe to both of their Patreons. I knew I chose right when I decided to subscribe to their Patreon, and then everyone else on this list, I either had no books in common with them or I had 1 book in common with them. Again, like I mentioned, the bar is gonna be really low because I just started my booktube channel and I actually only read 60 books last year, so it is what it is. Let's get started. I think I'm gonna read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride first because that one seems the less scary of the book. Let's get started with the reading and I'll check in with you guys later.
The writing in here is still delectable. Like, if you read this, you'll be feasting. You'll be licking your fingers like You will not be hungry after you read this because it's so beautiful. Also, the ending haunts me. The
huge elaborate mansions that feel like a lover from fairy tales could get lost in every room. Stories hidden in every drawer and folklore bursting from the cracks in the walls.
They believe that they were stolen from fairy and it's their destiny to kind of return to fairy where they are queens and they will rule and all this stuff.
Okay guys, I am about halfway through with The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and I have to say, I really like it. The writing is reminding me a lot of the writing in A Dowry of Blood. Like, it's not flowery writing, but the writing is like gripping and it's keeping me entertained. So what this story is about, so we have this guy, I don't remember what his name is, but he meets his partner or his future wife, Indigo, and she tells him to make her a promise that he will never ask about her past. And he's like, yep, I can keep this promise, because he's just so infatuated with her. And then it turns out that she is rich. What kind of kicks off what's happening in the book is that Indigo's aunt is dying, so they go back to her, like where her home is and like where she was raised. So the book is being told in present, what's happening right now with the guy and his wife, and then also in the past with Indigo and her time growing up on this property. I forget what the house is called. I'm forgetting a lot of things. But basically, it's just like her childhood. And what I'm getting out of this is that there is some kind of like otherworldly magic situation happening. The first sentence of this book had me gripped because our main guy, he's basically like, I thought I could keep this promise and I didn't, and you would not believe what happened from there. So I'm just like, what happened? Tell me. I want to know. I'm about halfway through the book. I'm going to try to finish this today. And also the other thing, you guys, is that I'm so tired. I think I might take a nap before reading the rest of this book because I don't know what it is. I have been taking iron supplements. When I got sent to the hospital back in November, they found out that I was anemic, and they weren't just sure if it's because I'm just like anemic and just low on iron, or because I just like have heavy periods. I know that was kind of TMI, but what can I say? So I've been taking iron supplements as being instructed by the emergency room people, and then I saw my doctor, my primary care doctor. He's like, yeah, let's keep taking those iron supplements, and then let's touch your blood again just to make sure that it wasn't the wacky thing, your medical condition, and it's not your period. Just make sure that you are actually anemic. So I've been taking these iron pills, and I feel like I'm about to get my period soon. I think I am. I think I'm gonna get my period next week, or maybe the week following. But I'm just so tired, and the point of all that is to say, so I started taking those iron supplements. I have not needed to take a nap in the middle of the day, but for some reason I am just so tired. And it's not because I went to bed late last night. I'm in bed by 9 or 10 o'clock and asleep. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this book, and then I'll check in with you once I'm done. Hi guys, I have finished The Last Tale of Flower Bride. I know in that previous update clip I said that I was gonna finish it that night, and I did stay up until 11 reading this book. Oh hi May, come on, join us. Come. Look at you, you're joining us. Yes, lay down. Lay down. Okay, my dog decided to join us. What was I saying? I was saying that last night I told myself I was going to finish reading it, and I stayed up till 11 reading it, and I still hadn't finished it. I think I had like 20% of the book left to read, but I stayed up until 11, and I honestly, that is way past my bedtime. I honestly don't understand how some people could stay up until like midnight, 2 a.m. in the morning, because I cannot function. Like, I'm usually in bed by 9 p.m. and asleep by like 9:30, 10. When I woke up this morning, I just felt like I had been tortured. Like, I just like went through it. Like, I partied all night long when literally all I did was lay in my bed and read. For the people that stay up until like 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, how are you functioning? Like, are you like a actually functioning human being in the morning like that? Because I just simply can't comprehend. I have finished the book. I'm giving this update with my raw, unfiltered thoughts. I think I'm gonna end up rating this book 3 stars. The reason being is that I felt like this book was just a little bit weird. Like, it had that magical realism aspect to it, and I don't think I've read a magical realism like book in quite some time. Honestly, I feel like the last magical realism book that I read was probably A Bridge to Terabithia, and I know that's kind of weird comparing the children's middle grade book to The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, but the entire time I was like, is the other world a real place? Like, what's happening here? I feel like I'm saying a lot without actually saying what this book is about. So just to recap again. So this book is about this woman named Indigo Castaneda, and she's like very rich and very wealthy. And she meets her husband, who's like an academic scholar, and he like studies like fairy tales and like lore. But she makes him promise that when they get married and they're gonna be together, to not ask anything about her past. Like, she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to talk about it. Like, forget about it. You are here. You love me for me, but don't ask me about my past. And so when Indigo's aunt is dying and passing away, they decide to go to her family home, which is called the House of Dreams, that I think is just on this island. And so while they're there, the husband, he's not given a name, by the way. He's just called the bridegroom. I did confirm that because I had to like flip back to the beginning where he was introduced, and I was like, I don't think book actually gives him a name. It's just the bridegroom. They go back to her family home at the House of Dreams, as I was saying before, and that's where the bridegroom starts to uncover a lot of crazy things about her past. This book is being told within the present and with Indigo's past, and honestly I preferred learning more about the past. There's a lot of like toxic relationships within this book. I feel like we've all been there before. We've all had that toxic friend, that toxic relationship. I had a hard time like reading about it or like listening to the audiobook about like these friendships and this relationship. And then the ending, I did guess the ending of it. Like, there was kind of like a twist or a reveal or whatever. But if you were paying close attention, you would have kind of figured that out. And I did kind of figure that out, but I just wanted my suspicions to be confirmed at the ending of it. And I feel like we ended the book kind of in the same place that we started. The thing about this book is, like I mentioned before, the writing was giving Dowry of Blood. Like, the prose was really, really good. So I can't say that this book was bad because I was enjoying it the entire time. Like, the entire time of the book, I was just like, this book is really good. I like it. But I was not seeing it above a 3 stars, and then I was able to guess what the ending was about, and I was like, yeah, this feels like a solid 3-star book. Like, it was good. It was, dare I say, fine. Once again, I am a scratch that broken record because all the books I've been reading lately have just been fine. And just to remind y'all, I read this book because it was one of the books that showed up the most on my list as I was putting it together. It showed up, let me get my phone out here. It showed up on Sarah Without an H's favorites, the Book Leo's favorites, and Kari Can Read favorites. I don't think any one of these people want me to just come out of this being like, it's fine, because everybody here, I mean, they loved it. They obviously put it on their favorites, but it was just fine for me. I sound like a broken record. The book is just fine. I think I'm going to pick up Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies next, because I think that one is like cozy fantasy. I've heard it described as, if you like Veronica Speedwell and you like Half a Soul, you will like this book. And I do like both of those. Veronica Speedwell, I give 5 stars, and Half a Soul I give 4 stars. My hopes are really high for Emily Wilde. And Emily Wilde was the one that showed up on the most people's list. I think it was Sarah Without an H's, Riley's, Books with Lala, and somebody else I can't remember showed up on their list. But I'm going to pick that up next. I think I'm going to get some lunch because I'm hungry. And take a shower, then go to my appointment, and then I'm going to start the book later today. That's the update I have for you, and I will check in later.
Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I loved this book so much. It made me giggle. It made me smile. I had such a great time while I was reading this.
This series is following Emily Wilde, who is a scientist, academic, and she is studying fairies and writing the first ever Encyclopedia of Fairies. And so she travels to this Scandinavian village where she's going to be studying fair folk there.
I just loved how established of a character she was, how well we got to know her. She is not the most charming person or personable individual. Emily and Wendell are my favorite, not quite a couple, romantic pair to follow.
It was still highly enjoyable despite the more academic approach to the writing. It makes sense given the context of the story. This book was so unexpectedly fun and charming. I think the moment that the guy enters the story, I just knew we were gonna have such a fun time because of the dynamic between the two characters. The author could write a dozen books of them going on all these different adventures for their research, and I would read every single one of them. It is so much fun.
I don't know why I keep filming these updates looking literally the most unattractive ever, but I started Emily Wilde last night. I made it halfway through the book. I had only planned on making it like a third of the way through, but I made it halfway through and I love it. This book is just so good. I had high hopes for this one. I didn't realize how good it was going to be. I mean, 0 critiques. I feel like this book is gonna be 5 stars, but I don't want to jinx myself. So we have Emily, who is a like fairyologist. I don't think that's the right word, but she studies fairies and she's trying to build out an encyclopedia on these fairies. So she decides to travel to Lostland, where we have a group of fairies that she decides that she wants to study. And when she gets there, she immediately offends the townfolk. We have Wendell Bamblebee, who is a coworker of hers at the university. I think she's at Cambridge that she's studying at, or that she's a professor for. But Bamblebee shows up and he is kind of a grumpy guy. They have this kind of grumpy sunshine thing going on. Emily is really bad in social situations, whereas Bamblebee, he's really good in social situations. So this book is giving Veronica Speedwell with Half a Soul mixed in there, and I feel like those are 2 perfect books to describe what Emily Wilde is about. But I love it. The writing is so well done. Like, I'm reading it and I'm not even realizing like the time passing by or how many pages I have left or whatever. So I'm gonna finish this book today for sure. I have a lot to do today. I need to do my laundry. I need to clean this room. I need to cook lunch for myself, and I need to prep for next week because next week is my internal audit for work, and that next week is going to be really stressful. So my only saving grace for next week is to continue reading the books that I had planned, and you might see me slowly losing my mind while reading this books, but it's not the book's fault. It's work related. I'm already stressed. I woke up this morning fully thinking that I overslept and that I was late for the audit, and it took me like 5 minutes to realize, no, it's Sunday, you're fine. Next week is gonna be super stressful, so sorry if my updates from now here on out is just me ranting, but hopefully the books that I read I like and kind of put me out of my work misery. So we shall see, and I will check in with you once I am done with Emily Wilde. It has been a very long day, and the lighting in this is probably gonna look like shit, but I have to give you guys an update. I finished Emily Wilde last night, and it was a 5-star read. That book was flawless. It's literal perfection. I was feasting on the writing in this book and the story and the plot. This book is just the essence of great writing and great plot coming together to make one great book. I will admit I got a little lost there in the middle, but it came back with a strong ending, which is why I ended up giving it 5 stars. And I read this book in 2 sittings. I could have done it in 1, but I decided to keep my peace and go to bed early. So this was a win. Everyone who recommended Emily Wilde was so right. I don't think I would consider Emily Wilde cozy fantasy because the stakes were quite high. Also guys, I'm looking really disheveled because I just worked a 12-hour shift. I don't even care that the fan is going off right now and that the audio is gonna probably sound like horrible in this clip. But I just have to give you guys that update for Emily Wilde. Everybody was so right. This book is so good. And I've been hearing that the sequel is even better, which I don't even know how that's possible. But I don't think I'll be able to get to the sequel for quite some time now. The next book I want to read is The World Gives Way, but I am in an audit for work. This audit is 5 days long, and as you know, I am an engineer, and our internal audits are quite hard. And I just, like, honestly, after working 12 hours, I feel like I just need to rant and I just need to cry because today was hard. Try to read A World Gives Way or The World Gives Way, the name of that book, this week, but I don't know how far I can get into it because I've got a lot of work stuff going on. So that's all I wanted to say, and I am probably gonna go take a shower and go to bed because it is 8 o'clock right now, and I have been up since 5:30. Oh wait, I almost forgot that I got some book stuff. I ordered this book in the mail, so if you looked at a couple vlogs ago, I showed you 3 special editions books that I got, and I had mentioned that the 4th one was missing, but then I got the 4th one in the mail. I emailed that website that I ordered these off of to just let them know, like, hey, I haven't gotten this 4th book, can you tell me what's going on? And they were basically like, girly, that book hasn't even been released yet, or the special edition of this book has not been released yet, so that's why you don't have it. And it finally came in the mail today, and let me show you what I got. It's covered in bubble wrap, so let me just take this off. Literally, this is so much bubble wrap. No one's gonna need this much bubble wrap. Ooh, this is nice. Okay, so this is the book that I ended up getting. It is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, the collector's special edition, I think it's what it says. Yeah, collector's special edition. So it comes like this. It's very, very shiny. The back says the same thing. And then taking it out of its cover here. That is so nice. Look, that is the front. The back is very plain. Oh, I guess this little string thing is attached to this like cardboard here. But here, it's got some sprayed edges. It's the same. Let's see the inside. Ooh, the end pages are just a map. See the other one. Yep, the end pages is just a map. And this is quite nice. I like it. There are pictures inside. How cute. Again, this is a book that I have never read before. It is middle grade, I think. I just saw it and I thought that this looked so nice that I wanted it for my bookshelves. I will be getting bookshelves soon. So all the books that I have since collected since starting my channel will be finally displayed on an actual bookshelf, and that this room won't look so blank and empty. And then that's the spine there. Once I get my bookshelves, I will be displaying this in all the other books that I have bought since then, and we'll do a like bookshelf organization video and a book haul because I've collected quite a bit of books since my last haul. But that's it. That's what I wanted to mention here in this video, and I will talk to you guys when I finish reading The World Gives Way.
The World Gives Way. This is a sci-fi dystopian where humans had to board this spaceship because Earth was no longer habitable for them and they need to travel to another planet. What I love so much about this book was the actual world and the spaceship, because the spaceship is gigantic and it was modeled to resemble Earth's ecosystems. This was the first book that I read this year, and now 155 books later, I still love it just as much.
Okay, I just finished reading The World Gives Way. It is like 10 o'clock right now. I kind of want to go to sleep before I give you guys my final thoughts on this book. I do think I need to sit on it for a little bit because I freshly just finished it, like literally not even 10 minutes ago. So I kind of wanted to stew on my thoughts overnight about what I think about this book, and then I will check in first thing tomorrow morning and give you guys my final thoughts on this. But I am going to start Silver in the Nightfall. Maybe I'll read 30 minutes of the book and then I'll fall asleep because I am up past my bedtime at this point because it is almost 10 o'clock and I like to be in bed by 9:30. See who's already in bed here? May. She is already in bed. She's saying, hey, why don't you come to bed with me? But I'm about to join her. So let me go to bed. You can tell that I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. And I will check up with you guys tomorrow morning. Oh, yeah, I do have my retainers on. I'm sorry. Sorry about having that kind of jump scare there, but we'll check in with you in the morning. I look so disgusting. Bye-bye. Okay, so I have finished The World Gives Way, and I have some thoughts. If your name is either Sarah or Riley, I would highly recommend skipping forward a bit. I'll put a timestamp on the screen so where you can skip forward so you won't have to hear about all the things I'm about to say about this book. Also, please don't kick me off the Patreon if you don't like my review of this book. So I was able to sit on my thoughts about The World Gives Way last night, and here's what I've come up with. I think I've mentioned before that I'm the kind of reader that needs a plot and I can't just like vibe off of a book. And this book very much is not plot driven. It is very vibey. It's also just very character driven because we have two main characters. We have Mira and we have Tobias. And so throughout the book, we really got to know Mira and her motivations, and we really got to know Tobias and his family life, his life growing up, and why he's taking the action that he's doing now that the world is falling apart and the ship is falling apart and there's no way to get out of it. This book is one of those books that don't have a clear middle and an end. I mean, obviously the book ended, but it was kind of an open-ended ending, if that makes sense. I don't know why this book was giving space western. That might be a little bit odd because obviously it's in space and it has nothing to do with like being at the countries and cowboys. All Western movies that I have seen don't really have like a plot. It kind of meanders a little bit. I think The World Gives Way is meandering and kind of in the fact that we are watching the world collapse around them. I think one thing that did annoy me about this book is the baby. Not me wishing the baby would go away. I just think the book would have been better if there wasn't a kid involved. Like, the kid really was a hindrance to Mira and Tobias's travels. I will say nothing happens in this book, but it's not a level of nothing like Addie LaRue where that spans 300 years of like nothing. This nothing is more of like, I think it was like maybe a week or so of nothing happening. So I could kind of let that fly. I know I'm saying a lot of negative things about this book, so I just want to go into the positives. I think the writing in this book was very well done. I was entertained from start to finish. There was at one point in this book where I just kind of like wanted to it to end. And it didn't lose me along the way either. It was well written and I will give it that. I don't know why this book only has such like, I think it's like 2,000 reviews or maybe even, or not even. This book has a little over 2,000 reviews, which I think is kind of unfair. I think this book is kind of underrated and that more people should pick it up. If you're the type of reader that is very vibey, I would recommend it. Like, I would recommend this book too. I think space was kind of like used as a plot device to show the end of the world. And I wouldn't necessarily say this is like a hard sci-fi book like Project Hail Mary, where that was very sci-fi-y. Overall, I gave this book 3 stars because I did like it and I would recommend it to other people, but it wasn't my kind of book. It's not something that I will think about ever again. Now that I'm done with The World Gives Way, I'm excited to pick up Silver Under Nightfall. I know that book is like almost 500 pages or so, but hearing other people's descriptions and like reading the blurb on Goodreads sounds like it's a vampiric kind of story, and I'm really into vampire type stories, and I hope this one has a plot unlike The World Gives Way. So I'm gonna get started with that tonight, and I will update you on my thoughts about that book.
Silver Under Nightfall by Rinchu Peko. It is a historical fantasy following our main character Remy. Although he's one of the most successful vampire hunters in his society, he's not accepted because there's rumors that he's actually half vampire. At this point in time, vampires and humans are starting to broker peace, and so Remy ends up having to work with this vampire couple in order to solve something that's going on in the city that's causing everyone harm, and slowly but surely he starts to get feelings for the couple. So there's a little bit of a throuple action, polyamory, and lots of slaying of monsters and vampires.
So I have finished Silver Under Nightfall now. I did mean to do a check-in when I was 50% of the way through with the book. Why are you whining? Nobody is getting hurt. I'm gonna put my hand on her hair. Yeah, I did mean to do a checkup once I was 50% through the book, but I had an audit that week of work and I had so much going on that I just like read the book and wasn't thinking about filming. So Silver Under Nightfall is based in this world where we have our main character Remy. He is a son of a duke and his father is kind of like an outcast duke. His mom has passed away and his father is trying to get back into like polite society. In this world there are vampires and the humans don't like the vampires, and Remy is what you would call a reaper. I don't think he was formally a reaper, but he like kind of had the job of a reaper, meaning that he is sent to kill some vampires. So that's his day job. It's been quite a while since I've read this book, so I'm just gonna struggle to do the summary here. He meets Malik, who also goes by Zidane, and he is a vampire, and Zidane's fiance is Yauden. I might be pronouncing these names wrong, but she is also a vampire, and they're pretty old vampires, but something is happening in the world where these vampires are becoming infected. They are kind of going insane, so they are on a mission to kind of discover what is going on with these vampires, who's causing the vampires to become infected with this thing called the rot. Zidane, Yauden, and Remy are out to kind of figure out who is infecting all these vampires, making them go crazy, who's trying to start a war between different factions and different courts in this world. There is between Zidane, Yauden, and Remy a polyamorous vampire kind of situation. Remy is not a vampire, but the other two are. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I think I just love me some polyamorous vampires because I gave A Dowry of Blood 5 stars. I will say, if you do pick up this book, it does not read quick at all. It took me a week to finish this book, and it's taken me quite a time to like finish all the books here all together. And I was listening to an audio and I was listening to in 2 times speed. This book is over 500 pages, so that's one thing to like be wary of if you're getting into it, is that it's going to take you some time. What I liked about this book is that I think it was well written. The world building was also very well. I did feel while I was reading this book that I was kind of like breaking my brain to kind of figure out what was going on and what the world setting and like the magic system and like the vampires and all of that. This book kind of suffers from, and that's why I give 4 stars, from that like Game of Thrones problem where there's so many people being thrown at you that you're just kind of trying to figure out who's related to who, what's going on with what, that I, at some point in the book, I just had to set aside all these names and kind of just focus on the main story and not worry about like, is this person that was mentioned within 5 pages at the beginning of the book, is this person going to come back around at the end of the book or further on in the series? I think I will pick up the second book, but I think it's going to be quite some time before I pick it up. For the people out there that don't like spicy scenes, there are some spicy scenes in this book, but it's not so explicit. I mean, it is a polyamorous vampire, so you know, there's some threesomes going on here, but I don't think that it's so explicit that it's gonna give you the ick. Just to recap everything, I started this video reading Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I think it's been like a couple weeks since I read this book. And to that, I think I gave that one 3 stars, and The reason being is the writing was really good, but the plot kind of lost me, and I was able to predict the ending. I don't think I'm a magical realism kind of girly, but that book was fine. My phrase of the year, it was just fine. And then I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I gave 5 stars. I think I love me some very fantasy. I wouldn't consider Emily Wilde cozy fantasy, but it is lighter fantasy. And let me show you. I did have a feeling when I decided to read Emily Wilde that I was going to end up liking it. So when I was at Half Price Books the other day, I did find Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, and I bought this first before even deciding to read Emily Wilde. Once I started getting into Emily Wilde and I found out that I was gonna like it, I then bought the first book. I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies here, and then I have Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands here. So the second book I want to pick up soon-ish, because I feel like the way that the first one ended, I'm probably going to end up liking the second one too. So I'm really glad that I own these copies. I did not buy The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, as it was just the meh kind of book for me. And then the next book that I read was The World Gives Away. That one I ended up giving 4 stars. I am thinking about maybe lowering it to a 3 stars, because once I finish it, I never thought about her again. Like it was another one where it was just fine. The writing was really good, but nothing happened in that book, and it was giving space western. I think I just felt really disconnected from the characters. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think I am going to downgrade that to a 3 stars. Again, it was just fine. And then for Sinful Under Nightfall, I'm gonna give that one 4 stars because I do really like it. I think I'm really there for the vampires and the fantasy. I think what reading these books really taught me, and for being on BookTube for almost a year, is that I think I'm a fantasy girly. I think I like fantasy more than anything else. And I also think that I'm a sci-fi girly. I definitely don't think that I'm a weird book kind of person, where The Last Tale of the Flower Bride was kind of weird and lost me at some points. But it was really well written and I didn't hate it. So that is to say, actually doing this video was a good idea. And so that is it. That is all I have to share with you guys. If you like this video, then please give it a like and please subscribe because it really helps me out. And if you want to follow up with what I'm doing, please follow me on Goodreads and Instagram, and I will check you guys out in another video then. Bye!